create, either for women, you can create a diary where you express yourself, or find any form of outlet. So poetry becomes that healing process where we pour out, and in the sense that as we're pouring out, I often say to the people I mentor, I said, you are forming what you're going through, but in a very positive way that somebody can read, says, I know you're going through this, but this is also looking forward to an outcome. So it becomes a healing and a healing process and a channel through that.
So we did talk about conversation. What can we do, perhaps beyond, when it comes to promoting a culture of positive thinking, especially amongst young people like we need to here to be the ones of middle age who are suffering, especially from mental illness challenges?
So I'm struggling, suggesting that we need to create more open spaces, open platform. Open in the sense of serenity, peace, a confidential place in the sense that somebody can pour in without being ashamed or without being judged. So creating those platforms within our families, within our workspaces. I remember years ago when I was working at UNAM in the HIV area, we used to have this open room. This open room, it would allow any student to just go in there and cry. So, and express themselves. And sometimes there'll be a counselor nearby, but it's just an open space, beautifully created, where somebody would just walk in and just cry. If they needed someone to counsel anything, they'll be able to open and find a way there. So I'm hoping that as a nation, let's begin to create that conducive, peaceful environment that we can be able to allow people to release themselves, their burdens, their anger, especially both to youth, men and women, but more for men and boys, because there's a lot going on that has not been unpacked in their lives. So that is my hope, as we create that sense, and that sense of a culture where we are co-supporting each other everywhere we find ourselves.
Now briefly, do you expect any new projects?
For now, we have been busy trying to do men's conference that might come up in October, which we're trying to, that's why I'm trying to emphasize on men. So there are other books, inspirational books that I've written, Men with Manners. I've written that, and there are other several projects that we do on our weekly basis. People can just be able to go to our channel, The Power of Purpose Africa, and they'll be able to get that, or Tony the Poet Africa. They'll be able to get some of their daily activities. But we have so much. This past Saturday, we had different community engagement on breaking the cycle of violence, and also expressing different kind of poetry pieces. I've been involved in a lot of to achieve all that you desire to achieve.
Now, as a creative, you have only that one is interested in. How do you then stay positive? I'm sure there are also negative thoughts, negative encounters or challenges that come in the way, but especially in your day life, how do you work on being able to control emotional heavy content that might come in your way, that's not really impact your work, doesn't impact the life of production in terms of film that you're doing through the project? How do you think?
So, I'll take myself. Obstacles, you use them as obstacles and stumbling blocks. Use them as stepping stones. So every challenge you get, you need to be proactive. You need, first, you come up with what I would say self-affirmation. Myself, when my mother passed away, which was the last, I would go into an exam room, and there's nobody else to encourage me. I would look myself into the mirror and say, Tony, you can do this, you are the best. So first, create words of self-encouragement. And second, if you find one or two friends, which we often say confident, a confident is somebody who's going to be there for you in good or bad times. Somebody who can be able to whisper that word of encouragement. So you have self-affirmation, you tell yourself constantly, you're good, you can do this, you are smart, you're wise, you're gifted. Tell yourself until your fears disappear. Second, try to have someone. My mentor say, either have a mirror or a friend. So a friend is somebody who can be able to whisper those words of wisdom to say, you're good, you can be encouraged. The other thing is that there are so many today with internet, so many sources. You can download some 3 minutes motivation and inspirational that you can play every morning or every time you face a challenge, music. So there are different informations around us that can be able to motivate and inspire us. Lastly, your vision and your purpose and your dreams must be the foundation and the primary source of inspiration.
Talking about the fact that you are in this sector of being creative, do you think that art, poetry, film, storytelling can be a form of positive or form of therapy or positive reinforcement for both the creator and the audience who is receiving this art?
Very, very true. So you see that when it comes to poetry, I've written I think about 5 books. When I was going through midlife crisis as a man, I wrote this poetry book called Men with Manners, which is, I've got other books on it, but it was my personal healing journey. The challenges as a man I have faced when the world seems to be shattered and broken. It is possible, it's one of my early films, I think about 10 years back. It was about an orphan, how orphans get abused, and also our African tradition where the father dies and then the family of the father comes and grabs everything, all the properties, and the orphans are often left struggling, there is no enough, and then in the process, even the single mother, the widow, struggles to raise this child. And then there's this culture where the child is now distributed to the family of the husband who has passed away, and then the children begins to get abused. So that's how the depiction of It's Possible film was. But in the process, as these orphans are being abused, there's always a sense of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel, as they say. So through guidance and divine intervention, help of other people, we find ourselves to the other side with positivity. And you see this child finishing school, graduating, and becoming successful in life. So despite the challenges, the dark moment some of the people go through, at the end of the day, when there's a focus, determination, vision, they're able to achieve that which they're able to achieve. And this I've seen according to close people around me. So that is how It's Possible was actually written, the script, and then the film shot.
Determination, staying positive, this is some of the advice that you probably give to someone to stay positive, especially in the times of adversity, because some people eventually get overwhelmed by negativity and all these negative thoughts and challenging times around.
So it's very important and very imperative to stay positive, to be focused in life, regardless of the odds that stand against you. So determination, positivity, and then discipline. Discipline in your emotions, in your work ethics. It's very important to overcome so many challenges that comes around us, especially in a situation where you don't have enough help around you. And we now into we used to grow up with a theme when a child is raised by the village, and they used to take a corporation of people to be able to build someone. We are now living in silos where we are into these nuclear families, all myself and all those who cannot afford, they struggle much. So it's very imperative to have a consistency self-motivating thoughts and words and remain focused and have that direction where you want to achieve. So it's very imperative, and you are able to achieve all that you desire to achieve.
Now, as a creative, maybe that one is interested in how do you then stay positive? I'm sure there are also negative thoughts, negative encounters or challenges that come in time.
Okay.
What often lead to serious and emotional topics? How has positive thinking shaped the way you approach these specific issues, especially because you feel in poetry?
It's very important to understand that often we depict the challenges that are going in the community, but you don't just want to display the challenges that goes on in the community, but also in my own life, especially when it comes to poetry. You also want to display the way forward, the way of hope. So often you have to look at, my mentor would say, one leg in the problem and one leg in the solution. So whenever we are writing and thinking or displaying these pictures and images, we often look from both sides. You go into what the people are going through, and you also begin to find a way you can give a voice of hope in that sense.
In the problem, one way in the solution. Now, your poetry collection, which is called Broken Calabash, dives into deep themes of childhood and family. Was this writing in a way of processing your experiences through a positive lens?
So the interesting with Broken Calabash was the Finland government, some of the officials that visited, they were looking for literature that displays African village and cultural background. And as they were looking around, they didn't find enough. So they came across some of my works. And I offered that I can come up with a collection that actually displays some of these poetic structures from the village but in the process of doing that, something very interesting. I thought to myself, as much as I'm writing and depicting village life, idioms and stories growing up in the village, this can also be used for our own people, for schools and for other settings. So I begin to add other issues that relate to fatherlessness, child abuse, gender-based violence. So we begin to add other chapters because it is quite a very big volume. It's about 250 pages poetry book. So we begin to add those so that as much as it goes to Europe to address some of the experience, the indigenous experiences, but also here at home in Namibia, it can be able to be used in schools, in the communities, to address some of the local issues that are happening. So that's how Broken Calabash was written.
An interesting title. Now we also understand the title of your film, It Is Possible, a very hopeful statement. What inspired the title? Does this reflect on the outlook of your life, or where did the title come from?
So, It Is Possible, it's about, it's one of my